Hi, my name is Eddie Santos. I'm a retired Army Sergeant with more than 23 years, and I am a disabled vet. I've been all over the place trying to get assistance for my disability. And as for right now, the only person that seemed to help me out was when I went to the congressman's office, tried to get some assistance for him to help me get my prosthetic leg fixed. So finally the congressman had me the opportunity to go to Palo Alto in San Jose, California, where they finally fixed my prosthetic. If you need help and you seem to not get it anywhere, you should go see our congressman with the people he has there to help us veterans get what we need and what we deserve for doing our time in service for the freedom of our island and for our country.
This ad was paid for with official funds from the office of Congressman Michael F.Q. San Nicolas.
A lot has changed overnight, but Buick and GMC's commitment to you remains the same. We understand you want to feel safe, so we're offering current owners complimentary OnStar Crisis Assist services. Should you need a vehicle, we're offering 0% financing for up to 84 months with deferred payment options for 120 days. Plus, you may have the option to shop online and take delivery at home. Visit our websites for the help you need.
Visit AutoSpot GMC today.
Funerals actually take a lot more planning than I expected. With us using island cuisine for the first time, of course we were iffy, but once they came and showed us their service, their food, we tasted their food and everything, we definitely use them again because their service and food is just awesome.
Mr. Gar 2019. I just want all of the sailors in the USS TR to know that I'm thinking and praying for you. Thank you. Bye.
Hafide, my name is Kai, and on behalf of the Island Cuisine family, I would like to send out a great big Undunkalunesi Zuwas Maasi. Thank you to all USS Theodore Roosevelt sailors for all that you do. We wish and send all prayers for a speedy recovery, and we will keep you all in our thoughts. Thank you for your service. God bless.
Hafide, my family and I extend our deepest condolences to the friends, family, shipmates of the USS Theodore Roosevelt, sailor who passed away recently. May we join the people of Guam in extending our prayers and our support, and may God continue to provide comfort and strength during this very difficult time. Sujus Masi.
Hafide, I'm Jim Moylan, and I want to extend my condolences to the family members and the loved ones of Chief Petty Officer Charles Tracker Jr., who had passed and was amongst those who tested positive for the coronavirus on the USS Theodore Roosevelt. I understand the hardship one experiences while serving our country. I appreciate the time and effort our military members put in to protect our country and her borders and the sacrifices they made, most especially at a time like this with the extremities of COVID-19, where we all are in a fight not many have experienced before. To all those affected by this, let's keep them in our thoughts and prayers. We are in this fight together, and we will weather this storm together. Stay safe and protected, and may God bless the sailors of the USS Theodore Roosevelt, and God bless Guam.
Buenas and Marianas in Micronesia. I'm Troy Torres for Kandit News. On our producer's desk is...
Off a day, my name's Eric.
Thank you. That's Eric Rosario at our producer's desk. Johnny Rosario is not with us tonight. She spent the day making deliveries. So over the past couple of days, Johnny has been asking people who are in a position to spare some food to go ahead and give her a call, and she gave her phone number out, 797-7082, to call her and arrange to drop food over, or, you know, like diapers for babies and stuff like that for people who may be in need, or no, people who are in need during this time. And a bunch of you have come forward and have donated, and we want to show you at least one baby who's happy tonight, who says thank you to those donors. This is baby Ella. Yeah. So thank you guys for making it possible. Yes, she's so cute with that yellow. I love her yellow blouse, or whatever you call that stuff that babies wear.
She's ready to party.
What is she holding? That's a Gerber baby. What is that?
That looks like.
It says puffs.
I think they're like.
Are those wipes?
Baby snacks that are for babies so they don't choke.
Oh, that's so smart. And then there's all, you see, that's Star-Kissed tuna in there. I see Hormel chili. What is that? That's corn?
Pancake mix.
Yeah, I see some pancake mix, wipes, Pampers. I think the Pampers and the wipes came from James Adkins and his wife, Dr. Alexa Perez.
They're awesome.
Super awesome. They made actually 2 deliveries. And there are others who donated, so thank you so much.
I think one of them was Mr. Luke Tetauto.
Luke Tetauto?
From Sin City.
Oh, from Sin City. I used to be a resident. I love Sin City. And yes, it was Sin City when I was a resident there. Thank you so much. This is just so lovely. It warms my heart, especially with all this stuff going on in our government. It's nice to know that the people of Guam have not become so jaded, that the government's barbaries has not rubbed off on the people's attitude toward each other, and that there is the spirit of love and giving during these very hard and trying times for people. So thank you very much for the donations. And also, if you weren't able to donate, for the prayers. And by the way, you can still donate to people. Johnny has offered herself as a... She was making deliveries all day. That's what she was doing. And she had a little bit of time to spend with the kids. She went to the beach, and she said it was really nice. There were a lot of people on the beach who were taking advantage of the sunlight and doing their social distancing and everything. See, people know how to make good decisions. What we also saw today was the procession of Santa Maria and Kamalin, as Guam, the United States, and Canada were reconsecrated to the Blessed Virgin Mary. The Archbishop and his entourage process Santa Maria and Kamalin around Guam. This is footage from Tumon. This was Eric and I at 9:30 this morning. And I know the guy who asked Eric if he's a parishioner at Tumon, because he's there every single day, and he knows that Eric is not a Tumon parishioner. What did you tell him, Chalu?
I go to St. Jude.
St. Jude Thaddeus. I have never seen this statue up close until today. And the hair does look very real, P.S. Her hair looks a lot better than mine, I'll tell you that. That's why I'm wearing this hat. It was a very emotional moment for the people who were along these routes and were able to witness Santa Maria pass by. I saw lots of people having live streams and sharing their videos on Facebook and Instagram, because they were so excited. And you hear people shouting Viva Santa Maria, and then thank you to the police officers, thank you to the Archbishop. So today was a very good day for faith and for humanity on our island, Catholic or not, and tomorrow is another day. So at 9:30, and thank you to my Chalu Josh, who fixed my Jeep. It will be the first time I will have my Jeep working in 6 weeks. There was something was broken. I don't know what you call it. I don't hardly know what it looks like. Have no idea what it does. But Josh is an amazing mechanic, and he fixed it in 5 minutes. I guess the store that had the part finally was open, and so he was able to get the part. Anyway, so I'll be able to go and sit in my Jeep tomorrow at the grounds of the cathedral, where I hope you'll all join us at 9:30, starting at 9:30, the grounds of the cathedral in Agana, when Archbishop Burns is scheduled to begin the Sunday Mass. And it is our hope that at the time that the communion comes, that the Archbishop and the Eucharistic ministers come outside and administer the sacrament of the Eucharist to everyone. And so this is what we ask you to do if you come. Stay in your cars. I know there are some people who want to bring lawn chairs so they can sit outside their cars. Okay, that's fine, as long as you're not going to other people's cars and you're not associating with other people. This is part of our responsibility to each other and to ourselves. And when the communion, if the communion is celebrated with us, it's really important that we wear our masks and put on some gloves at that time. And I'm sure that the Archbishop and his ministers will be taking some responsible actions as well by putting on their masks and gloves if this does happen, so that there is no cross-contamination, just in case. Even if you're not sniffling or sneezing or coughing, but most especially if you are sick, please don't go. Please, for yourself and for others. That just wouldn't be the responsible thing to do.
Stay in your car.
No, but no, I think even if you're saying you shouldn't be taking the host from the priest, because you might cross-infect the priest, and then the priest goes to the next car and delivers. You know what I mean?
Don't be flagging Polly down.
Don't flag Polly down.
Stay in your car. In fact, park at the post office.
Park at the post office. So someone said that there's going to be problems parking in Agana, but first of all, I don't know. I mean, I guess there will probably be a bunch of people there, but there's parking everywhere in Agana. Agana is probably the best place to park because you can park on the sides of the roads. Right. And like, even if it says no parking, I mean, no one listens to that. Even if there's a police station down the street, no one pays attention to all that no parking nonsense. And like, especially if it's the stripes, where my dad always taught me, you cannot park there if it has this stripes. I never paid attention to what my dad said about that stuff, so I don't know. On to our first story of the night. Senator Therese Terlahi is trying to get her bill number 333 overridden, the veto of her bill overridden by the Guam legislature. When the legislature goes into session on the morning of Cinco de Mayo, and Kandit will be covering the session live. We will, of course, have our commentary, and we will, of course, play the recess drinking game. That is, and hopefully we all have our tequila, and hopefully the Guam legislature does not recess too much. Because the game is that whenever the legislature recesses, we take a shot. If the previous sessions were any indication, senators and their staffs are watching. So I think they understand that there is a bit of contempt for senators when they go into those recesses, because that's really when they hide things from the public. So hopefully, they won't go into so many recesses. And like the Commonwealth legislature, they'll just go straight into business and do everything transparently for the people to see. But on Tuesday, it is expected that among the first things on the agenda is an attempt to override the governor's veto of bill number 333. That is a bill that requires the governor to hurry it up. Speed it up, Gonzales, with the payment or with the processing of federal paychecks. Paychecks from the federal government, or from money from the federal government for cash assistance. That's the $1,200 per person, $2,400 per couple, $500 per kid. And for the weekly post-pandemic unemployment assistance checks. That amount for, I think for the first 4 months, it'll be $940 every single week. And then after the 4 months, it'll be, I don't know if it's 340 or 600, I can't remember. Anyway, so one of the things that that bill would have done if it passed into law is require the governor to hustle it, you know, because she's taking too long. Everyone's wondering, where's the money? And she keeps throwing peanuts at people. She keeps doing this whole, you know, we got 10 million here. We're gonna give it to the poor people, Nick. And that should make them happy, you know, and they can maybe shut their own mouth. They think that I don't care about them. Can you do the close-up of that, of the rolling eyes? This is a non-verbal communication by Governor Lulian Guerrero. Ready?
Shoot. Oh, wait.
Oh, well,
Ready?
wrong camera.
Ready?
You see my eyes rolling down Marine Drive? That was Governor Lulian Guerrero's nonverbal communication of, I do not want to answer about the poor people. That was one of the things Bill number 333 would do. The other thing that it would do is require reporting from the governor on the use of these federal funds and local funds during this pandemic. And one of the things that, let me just show you this bill. Go ahead and cast on my screen. This is bill number 333 as passed by the Guam legislature. It was transmitted. It was passed on the 16th of April, signed by the Speaker, attested by Amanda Shelton, the Legislative Secretary. It was sent to the Governor. It's by Therese Terlahi, Sabina Perez, Jim Moylan, and all others. And on Section 3, it says, within 5 working days after the enactment of this law, the Governor or her designated representative shall reasonably attempt to execute all necessary memoranda of understanding and memoranda of agreement between the U.S. and Guam and establish all necessary programs to effect. So this is the part about getting you your money quick. And then down at section, hold on. There's a lot of stuff this bill does, but I just want to bring to you some relevant stuff. Section 7. The governor shall keep a full account of all COVID-19 expenses incurred by the governor, funded by either local or federal funds, and shall submit a report to the Speaker of the Legislature within 20 days of the close of each calendar month. I want to show you how much our governor is a liar. She's just...
I smell a veto.
Well, it's been vetoed. It's been vetoed. Now it's the legislature, it's up to the legislature to override the veto by a vote of 10 votes of the 15 senators. Let's see if they can have that, and hopefully they do. On Tuesday. But the governor has cashed in her deceit at the Bank of Lies when she called in to the Patty Arroyo show. Here's go ahead and cast on my screen again. Here's a story by Mai Habib in the Pacific News Center about the emergency session that the Speaker has called for Tuesday. Let me just read what Mai Habib wrote. She says, Guam lawmakers are heading into an emergency session next Tuesday to discuss overturning a bill that Governor Leon Guerrero vetoed. Senator Therese Terlahi wrote to the Speaker's office requesting the session to overturn the governor's decision on Bill 333, which requires Adelup to report to the legislature on how federal dollars are being spent. Actually, it's both federal and local dollars. But in her veto message to senators, the governor said the measure was redundant because she already has to abide by federal reporting and accountability requirements. In an interview with News Talk K57's Patty Arroyo Friday morning, the governor says she's not against transparency. And I want to play, I didn't realize that thing was there, but I found this thing. And go ahead.
And the requirement of the legislature, I'm already doing that towards the federal government. And so I don't have a problem sending my reports to the federal government, to the legislature. But when I look at that bill, it was like after 5 days of expenditures, I have to report to the legislature. Our reports don't occur 5 days right after expenditures. And so I thought it was just too stringent of a reporting. I'm not against transparency, and I certainly am not against accountability coming from a FDIC banking institution.
Lies, lies, lies. So there are two possibilities here in the realm of reality. Either the governor is lying about the bill's provisions, or the governor didn't actually read the bill, which is disconcerting because she vetoed it based on what? So let's go back to the bill. The governor said the bill requires her to file a report within 5 days of expenditures, right? That's what the governor, you just heard the governor say that on the Patty Arroyo show. Section 7 of this bill says the governor shall keep a full account of all COVID-19 expenses incurred by the governor, funded either by local or federal funds, and shall submit a report to the speaker within 20 days of the close of each calendar month. It isn't within 5 days, and it isn't within a report. It's within 20 days of the close of a month. It's a report every 30 days, every 31 days when you count the months that have 31 days in it. So, again, the governor says 5 days based on what? The bill that she vetoed that we would expect that she would have read says 20 days after the close of each month. All the legislature wanted to do was, governor, every month, tell us what your expenditures were. So what do you think? Is she lying, or did she not read the bill? Let's see what your comments are so far. Teresa Garcia says, oh, really? She lacks transparency. Rita Arceo says, Dawkun. Okay, so you think, Rita thinks she's lying. Dude says, I'm here and I do not blame sober for the shiz drunk me will be saying. Oh my goodness, Alicia. Jacob Nakamura responds to Mary Jane Villagomez, says, Johnny has the biggest heart of anyone we know. She is driven by her desire to help everyone. Amazing woman. So Jacob's talking about how Johnny spent today delivering food and Pampers and stuff like that from the donors to those who are in need. Monica says the governor is a Dawkun. Jacob says, Pat Nana, that's so cool. Thanks for joining us, Pat. I don't know what that was in reference to, but cool, Pat. Lisa Meter says, impeach. Tony Smith says, she lies so much. Carla Wilson says she didn't read the bill and she's lying. Roz Javen Meno says, lying and did not read the bill. AJ Cruz says, lies. V. Leandro says, standard FSR. What's FSR? Equa. Donna Marie says she's a Dawkun Melania. Lance Titan replies to Alicia saying concurred. Jonathan Garcia says Dawkun Melania. AJ Cruz says Leche, she really didn't read the whole bill. It's a 4-page bill, guys. It's double space with numbers on the left margin. Sam Quinn says, obviously she didn't read it. 2 different answers. It clearly states 20 days. How did she come up with 5 days? Carl Baker says she'd be lying because she's under fire. Sal says, what a supporting human well-being by supporting details on congeniality, conservation of elegant, functional like you. How are you right now as soon as possible? Dangerosity is everywhere in this governor. Joshua Duranian says she might say both, then add that she don't remember, she blacks out. Class Schelling says she didn't read it. 5 versus 20. Yeah, 5 days equals 20 days in island time. Justine Rodriguez Flores says, I'm still trying to figure out who's the real governor. Maybe she's a puppet too. We'll get to that story. Alicia says she's a Dawkun Melania. Oh, hey, Real Joe Cruz. Real Joe Cruz has all of the video proof of everything. Bruce Lujan says, I smell Lysol, Melania scent. Alicia says, the throne of lies she sits on. Gerald and Clarissa Baumgartner Lustigo says, lies and didn't read the bill like always. Pat Nena says, turn her into a man. Ariel Lozada says, she lies so much, the gap between her teeth are real. I have a Madonna gap. Oh, if you guys are talking about that video where there's a mouth moving and there's a gap between her teeth, That's my gap. Mel Hernandez says she doesn't read it or anything. She only sees dollar signs. Vanessa Dudella says, I think she believes what she said. Interesting. So that means she didn't read it. Or she didn't comprehend the plain language of the bill. Josie Tadibi says she didn't read the bill. Liar, pants on fire. Lucy Santos, that rolling eyes though, is she crazy? Guam Chef says she read the bill just as much as she read the federal regulations on the CARES Act funding. She's still waiting for the advisors of the co-advisors of the advisory advisors group. You know, that probably is the correct assessment. That probably really is what happened. She didn't read the bill at all. She relied on her son-in-law, who is her legal counsel, who does not have a full license to practice law, to provide her with what does this bill do, and he gave her the wrong information because he is incompetent at the practice of law. And all this bill wants to accomplish is to to demand accountability in the executive branch of our government. I almost sounded like Leon Guerrero there. In our government. And to demand transparency from the governor, because boy, has that been sorely lacking. And because of the governor's assault on transparency and free speech, she is now in trouble with a national freedom of the press organization. A national organization aimed at protecting freedom of the press has flagged Governor Leon Guerrero for restricting the free press on Guam. The U.S. Free Press Tracker flagged Guam following Friday's press conference in which Governor's Director of Communications, Janela Carrera, and Staff Assistant Carlo Branch muted questions from the media. Hold on, because Jacob Nakamura just chooses the most flattering pictures of people, I swear to God. I don't even know where Jacob found this picture. Muted questions from the media that dealt with the delay in funds going to struggling citizens and questions regarding her former chief of staff's use of a presidential suite at the Pacific Star Hotel. Those are pictures. On the left is Janela Carrera, Bubbles, as we call her, and on the right is Carlo Branch, the staff assistant. One of the tracking lists the U.S. Press Freedom Tracker maintains is a database of press restrictions and press access specifically related to the coronavirus crisis. Their updated database has Guam Governor Leon Guerrero now publicly listed as restricting press access to information. The U.S. Press Freedom Tracker brings together more than 24 press freedom groups to create a centralized repository on the number of press freedom violations in the United States. The data they gather helps inform advocacy, journalism, and legal action groups. Freedom of the Press Foundation, a press freedom advocacy organization, manages the day-to-day operations of the site. The Committee to Protect Journalists chairs an advisory board that includes the Knight First Amendment Institute at Columbia University, the Reporters Committee for Freedom of the Press, Reporters Without Borders, and Index on Censorship. Guam is now on their radar because Governor Leon Guerrero has publicly restricted the free press on our island. Can you, just for a moment here, you know how embarrassing that is to be tracked on this list? It's like we're Iran or Somalia or, you know, China or something, or Burma, where journalists are attacked. And of course, these are some of the measures of, like, you know, the progress of a society. It's such a sad thing. There is a quote here: journalists in the United States face hostility from local and federal governments, along with a number of legal threats to themselves and their sources, this organization said. When journalists are obstructed, so is the public's right to be informed and hold power to account. The United States has some of the strongest legal free speech protections in the world and serves as a beacon for press freedom in a world where journalists are routinely censored, attacked, or imprisoned for their work. But the U.S. record is imperfect, and journalists and advocates must tirelessly defend the First Amendment in courts, in legislatures, and in the media. Constant vigilance and an honest accounting of the country's track record on press freedom are essential. And, you know, Guam really isn't the only place where this stuff is happening. It's also happening in other states in the country. But I think this muting of reporters might really be unique to Guam. I've not heard about that kind of thing happening in other states and jurisdictions.
The crazy thing too is that the governor's communications director is a former journalist.
And her spokeswoman,
secretary.
yeah, they're both
former journalists.
They're both reporters. And you know, I thought about that too, Chelo, when I was reading that Jarrell Carrera thing. You know, the Janella's husband was complaining about people being critical of the governor and critical of his wife. And I remember when I was the governor's director of communications, and then after that, in another role, I faced a lot of criticism. But first of all, I made it a point to not go on camera too often because I just didn't want to have to stand the heat so often, you know? So I made it a point, like Philip Leon Guerrero would be the guy who would be on camera more, and, you know, because Philip was better at stuff like that than me. He's far more articulate and was able to think like super quick, right? But some of that was because I didn't want to face the heat in the kitchen, so I just didn't get into it too often, and I preferred a behind-the-scenes role. But when I did have to face the heat, I remember so many times wanting to write on Facebook or send a letter to the editor to defend myself. And I always had to think, you know, this isn't about me. Like, I don't care, and no one's gonna care about what I write. Because when people complain about the government, it's never really about the people in the government. It's about their actions, the actions that they've taken that have caused a negative consequence on people. That's why people complain. And so when I saw that thing by Jarrell Carrera, and then when I saw Governor Lulian Guerrero's comments in the Mariana's Business Journal in an article by Maureen Maratita, who just, I don't know, she needs to clean her nose because it is brown with the governor's talkie right now. You know? Jesus, Maureen. What? And it's not just Lulian Guerrero's talkie, but also Ralph Torres's talkie. It was a whole expose. Not an expose. It was like this kiss butt report about how these governors are facing these unprecedented blah, 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 and they face all of this criticism, and they're just doing their best. And what kind of report is that? So anyway, the governor started promoting it on our Facebook page, and then I thought, you know, this is so arrogant, so elitist, so immature and unbecoming of a governor and a governor's office. And the time that they're spending telling people that they shouldn't be criticized and that their feelings are hurt and they're just humans too, is time that they need to be spending fixing the problems that they've created and owning up to their own mistakes and not blaming the people for being critical of them, because guess what, lady? You signed up for the job. You told everyone you were gonna do something in a certain way that was good for everyone. You failed at it. You still got 2.5 years left in office, so rather than wasting any more time criticizing the critics, why don't you just do your damn job? Because that's all this is really about. And the problem I think that the Leon Guerrero administration has with doing its job is it is a little too busy trying to enrich itself, and this is our top story tonight. Governor Lulian Guerrero has said publicly that the cost to quarantine at numerous Guam hotels will be reimbursed by the Federal Emergency Management Agency, but her conflict of interest has put that at risk. And that has led to the use of $7 million under the CARES Act that otherwise could have been used for cash relief to struggling families, according to a document from her budget director, Lester Carlson, to the Speaker of the Legislature. Ms. Leon Guerrero directed her son-in-law and legal counsel, Hai Hyun, to negotiate directly with several hotels to be paid hundreds of thousands of dollars by the government of Guam to quarantine residents. In a March 21 email from Mr. Hyun to Civil Defense Administrator Chuck Estevez, where he lists hotels, laundry, and medical services for government quarantine sites that, quote, I have procured and I am waiting for fully executed documents to catch up, unquote. quote, I am handing over the management of some services we have contracted. Please take note, negotiated pricing requires payment upon invoice. The places need to be paid promptly to meet their cash flow demands. For the most part, I have checked with Lester on a budget prior to proceeding. All other times, I have acted on the direction of the governor, unquote, by Haiger. The hotels they chose have outstanding massive mortgages and loans with the governor's family's bank, the Bank of Guam. Prior to becoming his mother-in-law's legal counsel at the governor's office, Mr. Hun was her lawyer at the Bank of Guam. GovGuam is seeking reimbursement for these costs under the FEMA Public Assistance Grants Program, according to Mr. Estevez. Quote, we conducted the preliminary call with FEMA, he said. Quote, we still need to have the exploratory meeting and actually working with FEMA Recovery to determine what is reimbursable and how much will be reimbursed, unquote. The paper trail following that March 21 email to Mr. Estevez from the governor's son-in-law reveal a frenzy among the governor's office, the government's financial and procurement officers, and the attorney general's office to reconstruct the procurement record on the hotels, which are considered by FEMA as non-congregate shelters. The documents are all dated prior to March 27, when Congress passed the CARES Act and before any funding source but the Federal Stafford Act could be considered. On March 25, at 1:15 p.m., Mr. Hyun wrote directly to Mr. Estevez telling him, quote, I have forwarded all the unsigned contracts to you. The AG is asking that I complete a sole source procurement record prior to him signing off. I am awaiting some docs from GHRA to help me complete it, unquote. In that email, the governor's son-in-law details that he negotiated the rate of $100 per room per day with the hotels, among other negotiations. It was 6:01 p.m. that night that Mr. Estevez sounded the alarm to Mr. Hun and to the governor's office, the Bureau of Budget Management and Research, and the Department of Administration about the potential misuse of federal funds. Quote, attached is a fact sheet to be reimbursed for non-congregate sheltering, i.e. quarantine facilities. The guidelines are very clear, unquote. He alerted the parties to FEMA procurement guidelines and policy guidance that specifically states that states and territories must follow local procurement laws and regulations. Mr. Estevez attached the documents, which also has a reference to Title II of the Code of Federal Regulations. In order for the government of Guam to use this FEMA grant program that Mr. Hun was directing Mr. Estevez to use as a funding source for the hotels Mr. Hun selected for quarantine, then GovGuam is subject to the federal procurement standards found at 2 CFR subsections 200.317 through 200.326. One of the first rules you find is on subsection 200.3.18 C1 under General Procurement Standards. That section states, quote, the non-federal entity must maintain written standards of conduct covering conflicts of interest and governing the actions of its employees engaged in the selection, award, and administration of contracts. No employee, officer, or agent may participate in the selection, award, or administration of a contract supported by a federal award if he or she has a real or apparent conflict of interest. Such a conflict of interest would arise when the employee, officer, or agent, or any member of his or her immediate family, his or her partner, or an organization which employs or is about to employ any of the parties indicated herein has a financial or other interest in or a tangible personal benefit from a firm considered for a contract. The officers, employees, and agents of the non-federal entity must neither solicit nor accept gratuities, favors, or anything of monetary value from contractors or parties to subcontracts. However, non-federal entities may set standards for situations in which the financial interest is not substantial or the gift is an unsolicited item of nominal value. The standards of conduct must provide for disciplinary actions to be applied for violations of such standards by officers, employees, or agents of the non-federal entity, unquote. According to a 2016 mortgage between the Bank of Guam and the company that manages the Pacific Star Hotel, Marianas Properties, LLC, the Pacific Star's owners are indebted to the governor's family's bank for $32 million as of the execution of the mortgage. A series of March 18 letters to the owners of the hotels to be used for quarantine was issued by Ms. Leon Guerrero herself, including to A.J. Pothin of Marianas Properties, with which she has a direct conflict of interest. Nearly all of the documentation disclosed by Mr. Estevez to Kandit News depicts that it was Mr. Hyun, not fallen Chief of Staff Anthony Babalta, who led the negotiations and directed the fast tracking and payments to the hotels, including the ones with which he himself had a direct conflict of interest from his previous job at Bank of Guam. Following Mr. Estevez's March 25 warning email, Mr. Hyun wrote to Mr. Babalta and copied Claudia Akfaji, the government's chief procurement officer, Budget Director Lester Carlson, Cash Director Ed Byrne, his deputy counsel Sophia Diaz, and Mr. Estevez, and admitted, quote, "There are several things missing in these contracts. I understand that, and we are working with the Attorney General, Homeland Security, Civil Defense, FEMA, to reconcile the needed language for reimbursements later. The unfortunate thing is that these vendors were only able to provide us with these accommodations if we agreed to pay as we go. They all have cash flow issues and would need to pay their own staff and vendors. So if at all possible, would you help facilitate the payment of invoices? I've sent them to Chuck Estevez already. The contracts will follow as soon as the AG is done with review and all the other signatures are captured," unquote. The email was a directive from the governor's son-in-law and legal counsel to the government's procurement and financial officers to break the law and process payments on an unfinished illegal procurement to vendors who would be paid money into enterprises that would then pay the Bank of Guam for outstanding loan balances. The nail in the coffin for Mr. Hyun and its implication of his own mother-in-law is written by his hand in the next sentence of the email. Quote, "I do believe the governor's executive order allows for the fast tracking of these. In fact, it may allow us to forego some things as well," unquote. Due to the escalating problems with the procurement of the hotel facilities and issues facing them with violating federal procurement regulations that apply to the FEMA PA grants, Ms. Leon Guerrero instead has transferred CARES Act funding given to GovGuam to pay for those costs. But that means that the failure by her legal counsel and son-in-law to follow federal procurement regulations and both of their conflicts of interest because of the Bank of Guam will give Guam residents the short end of the stick. The funds she will be tapping into instead can be used for a multitude of major public initiatives such as housing for the poor and homeless, food, education, and transportation for the majority of the people of Guam who are facing financial ruin because of the governor's failed policies. Instead, at least some of that money will be paid to businesses that owe her bank in loans. And according to her son-in-law, she approved it all. This story has been forwarded to the Office of the United States Attorney for Guam and the Northern Mariana Islands and to the Federal Bureau of Investigation.
Okay.
I know, trippy, right? Trippy. These guys are in a lot of trouble. I see someone asking about the attorney, like, how come the Attorney General is not doing anything about it? That's probably going to be our next story. No, I'm sorry. There are a couple more stories that are coming out of this procurement thing. But one of the things that we are going to start to chase is where is the Attorney General of Guam in this? Because according to these documents, according to these emails from Haiger, the Attorney General was roped into this. So how much did the Attorney General know? And then the next thing we want to ask is, where are these contracts? And why are these contracts stuck for so long at the General Services Agency with the Chief Procurement Officer? Is it that Claudia Akfaji does not want to break the law and does not want to process these contracts? And then what happens? What's the end game here for the administration? Let's see what your comments are. Sandra Ray just says, so what? We're going to let her finish her term, or are we going to do something about getting her out? Guam cannot do another 2 years with her. 2.5 years, people, 2.5 years. You know, let's just say that the governor resigned or was removed from office prior to the 2-year mark. If I'm not mistaken, the Organic Act says that there would be a special election. But if the governor is removed or resigns after the 2-year mark, the lieutenant governor becomes the governor, gets sworn in as the governor. The speaker becomes the acting lieutenant governor until the new governor chooses or appoints a new lieutenant governor, which the legislature would have to confirm. I'm just throwing that out there. I'm not trying to incite anything. Vince Attal Jr. says, Kandit is one of the best things to happen in the CNMI. Thank you. 100 times better than hearing these in everyone's nubenas or kids' birthday parties. Haha, yep. Jules Maloney says she needs to put those big girl panties over her head because she's consistently speaking out of her arse. Jacob Nakamura says to J.R. Farron, he's too busy kissing someone's arse. I don't know who we're talking about there. I didn't catch the conversation above. Julian, and Joseph Manabusin Quintanilla said they should have put Lou inside the box with Santa Maria and Kamalin so she can be blessed. Sir Conrado Bulala Runa says, boom. Teresa Garcia says, Pacific Star, the People's Hotel, only for 5-star employees. Let's play a little game real fast. How many of us can name the highest floor of each hotel? 19 at Pacific Star. Floor number 19. I think the tallest tower at PIC is the 33rd floor, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. I think is that the tallest? Or is the tallest now the Ducid?
Ducid, that's right.
Well, how many floors does the Ducid have?
I want to say 69.
They do not have 69 floors. Suite number 69 at the penthouse of the Pacific Star, though. How about that? Lucy Sanchez says, nice, a lot of people here. Yeah, thank you guys for sharing our feed and for inviting people to listen to us. We very much appreciate that. Thank you so much. J.R. Farron says, seriously, ti mamagusi Zeus. Seriously. I've honest to God, yes. Eric Flores says, Claudia and Anita from GSA are super corrupt. I don't know who Anita is. Sandra Regis says, the people of Guam voted her in office. We should be able to take her out. J.R. Farron says, why put your bank at stake for interest buildup? Oh, money, yo. Jacob Nakamura says to Vince Attal Jr., thanks, Vince. We love the CNMI. Yes, we do. And we're very sorry to the CNMI. The governor here in Guam is just causing so much corruption in the news and trying to keep the news out that it's been very difficult to get to Ralph Torres' corruption over there. And all those stories are just building up. Lucy Santos says, Maga Dalkin. I saw something today, a hashtag Magasaki. Sir Conrado Bulala Runa says, impeach or riot, LOL, just joking. Dale West says, so we fired the AG too? You know, interestingly enough, there is, if any of you follow the news in Saipan, they have the same issue. They have all of this corruption by the governor of the CNMI, and everyone asks, where is Attorney General Edward Manabusin? And the answer to that question is on the golf course. He literally is always on the golf course. And people ask because there's so much corruption and the Attorney General there hasn't done anything about it. Dudas Girl Dueña says, yes, ASAP to that question about firing the AG. Lisa Midor says, impeach is how to take her out now. Lisa Iriarty Kenga Tudela says, and probably can't pay that mortgage due to lack of tourism funds. Therefore, they are allowing their hotel to be used as quarantine. Then the funds that were originally supposed to go to paying the hotel would go into Bank of Guam's pockets. Just my guesstimation. Your guesstimation is right. There's another crime that's involved here, and it's with the antitrust law of Guam. Now, it was the governor's decision to close down the hotel industry. And it was also the governor's decision to choose 4 different hotel sites that would remain financially solvent through this period while its competitor hotels are now at jeopardy of not being financially solvent. That is a clear violation, a felonious violation of the antitrust law of Guam. Will the Attorney General do anything about it? Well, let's see. Joey Tovis says, I foresee another resignation incoming. I'm not sure, Joey, because the resignation that should have happened, all things being fair, should not have been Tony Babauta. It should have been Hai Hyun. He was the guy responsible for this contractual mess. And Tony Babauta seems like the sacrificial lamb. That's what this is all looking like. And that presidential suite story just made it easy to blame everything on Tony Babauta. Jacob says, Del West, yes, we need to get rid of this worthless AG as well. Frank Salas says, Guam Attorney General, oh no, looks more like FBI involvement required, which is sad. It's sad that we have to get the feds involved when the local government can be solving these issues. But hey,
Chilo,
yeah?
scroll up to that GIF, that picture.
I know what you're going to say. Don't say it.
Okay, okay. Well, was I right?
Yes, we had that conversation, right? Yes. Teresa Garcia says, conflict of interest, conflict of interest. Frank Salas says, do not, or no, not catch and release AG. Jay Millen says, Lania Silulu, why is she not for the people of Guam? She is for herself first. Jacob brings up a point that Haiger campaigned for Levin Camacho, and they are very good friends. Joanne Fullerton says, very sad. Yes, indeed. Rich and Joe Meno says, Brianna Meno, home since 2 years ago. Bank of Guam is robbing you people. Or is that done since 2 years ago? Yeah, just take your accounts out of Bank of Guam. It's a simple way to strike back at the empire, is take your accounts out of Bank of Guam. Just like many of you, and I know some of you, including my closest friends, still have not heeded my advice. And to my closest friends, it was more of a demand to stop shopping at Payless. So for crying out loud, can we please move our accounts from Bank of Guam to another account? I'm telling you, it's the best thing that you can do to give the governor a message about corruption. Justine Ray Rodriguez Flores says, oh, hell, the LT needs to go too. Since you want to be so quiet, he can go be quiet somewhere else. We're going to try and find out more about what's going on with the lieutenant governor in the coming week. Adriano Kirigua says, half a day, Troy, Las Vegas in the house. Half a day. How is Las Vegas? So my sister lives there, and from the stuff that I read on the news, it looks like Las Vegas is a very quiet, lifeless strip these days. J.R. Farron says, my dumb arse voted for this sick lady. Don't you worry, J.R. I voted for her too. In the primary, I voted for Dennis Rodriguez. And then when he lost the primary, it was either Lou or Ray Tenorio, truly. And there was no way I wanted Ray Tenorio to be governor. Teresa Garcia says, oh no, just change the gov and lieutenant governor. Claire Tyron says, it's time to bring the People's Bank down. Ria Patino says, this is what I look forward to besides other news articles. Controlled and pathetic. We don't want to hear the same things. I like this channel. Thank you, Ria. Thank you so much. Teresa Garcia responding to our thing about, each of the hotels. She's with me. She says 19th. Adriano Kirigua says, Lou has to give it up. She is so incompetent. Nora Malaka says, exposed. Jay Milan, why is Lulu not for the people? She crazy, he says. Deborah Chargaloff says, will our governor's actions affect the federal funds allotted to Guam for the people? Yes, absolutely. Charles Esteves said that the $7 million for these quarantine facilities, his office is going to try and get reimbursement through the Stafford Act's public assistance grants. But according to guidance that's already been provided by Region 9, by FEMA's Region 9 office, and in documents that Mr. Esteves disclosed to Kandit, it really does look like that's not going to happen because these are not allowable costs for reimbursement. Rita Arsenio says she didn't take her meds. Eileen Silosa says they should also take Santa Maria and Cumberland to Bank of Guam so they can all come out waving and giving Santa Maria and Cumberland all the stimulus checks that's not hers. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Please get some rest and join us starting at 9:30 at the grounds of the Agano Cathedral tomorrow for Candid News. I'm Troy Torres, and at our producer's desk is
Eric.
Good night.
Good night.